of the issues that keeps most Americans up at night is health care.
Healthcare is the dominant issue.
Healthcare.
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 Healthcare. People want major change in healthcare.
$1 in 5 bucks ever spent 9 years from now will go to healthcare.
They are all fighting over healthcare costs.
It's only going to get worse.
Despite spending more per person on healthcare than any other country in the world, 2 out of every 3 American adults are overweight, obese, or suffer from a chronic disease.
About 40% of Americans are currently considered obese. The rate of type 2 diabetes is climbing.
Type 2 diabetes.
Heart disease is the leading cause of death in this country.
There are some new guidelines redefining who should be diagnosed with high blood pressure.
103 million Americans have high blood pressure.
To treat these kinds of chronic conditions, doctors routinely prescribe expensive procedures and pharmaceutical pills. Unfortunately, most patients who get on the medication merry-go-round never get off.
The problem of prescription painkillers and their misuse certainly is a nationwide one.
They're among the most commonly prescribed tablets taken by millions of people.
A national epidemic of pill popping so bad it's being called Pharmageddon.
But now doctors have discovered a harmful new side effect.
The alarming rise in prescription drug abuse among baby boomers.
Between 1947 and 1963, the birth rate skyrocketed in the United States. Now, after living unhealthy lifestyles, these baby boomers are coming into the Medicare system in record numbers. While 70% of all Americans are on at least one prescription drug, more than half are taking 4 or more prescriptions. Despite their rampant poor health, baby boomers are actually living longer. But they require so much more medical care from a system that is already stretched to the breaking point.
Medicare itself is rapidly running out of money.
Medicare won't be able to fully cover its medical bills starting in 2026.
About 10,000 boomers retire every single day.
What are your plans for retirement?
As retirement nears, many boomers make one last move, often choosing a warmer climate to live out their golden years. And where are a lot of those people going?
Florida is the best place to retire.
Come on down. Our state ranks high on affordability, quality of life, health care.
The best states to live as far as weather are Florida and California, but California is so expensive, so Florida.
Every day, nearly 150 people are moving to Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay is now the 3rd most popular place in the country to move to.
Nearly 1,000 people move to Florida every day, and many are coming to the Tampa Bay area. With a mixture of residents young and old from places all over the U.S., Tampa Bay's population is a microcosm of the country. Because of its diverse demographics, new restaurant concepts are often tested here, such as Carrabba's, Outback, Bonefish, Wing House, Hops, and Hooters. In 2018, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics noted that 44% of all food spending was for food eaten outside of the home. Here in Tampa, there are a substantial number of restaurants and fast food franchises that cater to tourists, and the locals suffer from it. My name is Robby Graham, and this is my wife and best friend, Mia. A few years ago, Mia had a vision to create a new kind of restaurant. As concepts go, this one was outside of the box. Her idea was to create a cafe where people got healthier, not sicker from the food served there. The menu would be plant-based, and the cafe would be faith-based. The idea was risky from the start. 6 out of 10 restaurants fail in their first year. Mia and I had no experience running a cafe. Does Tampa really need another restaurant? Mia and I had no idea what would happen if her cafe ever came to fruition. But once it did, an abundance of relationships were formed. And creative concepts sprang up, some with far-reaching solutions for our national health crisis, and others for growing healthier and happier in body, mind, and spirit.
Hi guys, welcome. We have menus right on the wall. Have you dined with us before?
Outside looking in, it is a bad idea to start a restaurant with no experience. Restaurant businesses are notoriously tough businesses.
You have the buffalo chicken wraps?
I do, yes we do. Buffalo chicken wrap sounds good.
It was not something that I really put a whole lot of thought in.
Can I go ahead and get the acai bowl? And then I'm also gonna order for my friend, I'll take the Brussels bowl.
I just knew that it was something that I was supposed to do, and I was trusting God in the process, and all the players were coming to the table. I'm from Valdosta, Georgia, South Georgia. I grew up in a very wonderful family. My grandfather was in the pecan business. My dad was a supervisor in a factory. My mom was a hairdresser. 2 brothers. Just a normal, all-American Southern Baptist family. I was baptized when I was 6. I was on fire for God as a child. When I was approaching my teenage years, around 15, I started to rebel. I rebelled for a really long time. Oh, gosh. I was 21 years old when I moved to Florida. It was a welcomed culture shock to move to Tampa from Valdosta, Georgia. I was embracing this new life of beaches and the nightlife. I spent my weekends in Ybor City going to clubs and hanging out with friends and eating out late at night, all the fried, greasy food and drinking and staying up late. That was fun for a little small town girl. When I was 24, I met my children's father and we got married. Immediately started to have children. My desire was awakened in me to be a wife and a mother. I've always desired to be, more than anything, to be a mom. I have 2 boys and they bring my life so much fulfillment.
I've been here for 50 years in the greater Tampa Bay area. One of the big things I was always attracted to as a youth was sports. I played baseball from a very young age. As I got into my high school years, I took a like to football and track and field. I remember when I saw the movie Pumping Iron with Arnold Schwarzenegger, my focus quickly shifted and I pretty much gravitated towards bodybuilding.
When Robby and I met, we immediately had a connection. Our relationship growing up started as friends, turned into brothers. Back then, we made a pact to each other that no matter what, we'll always be there for each other. From the first day we started lifting weights, we were 15, 16 years old maybe. He just went crazy with it from that point on. He never missed a workout. He was in the gym, sometimes 7 days a week. At 18 years old, won Mr. Teenage Suncoast bodybuilding competition.
I have to admit, I was never, ever one of those guys that ate right all the time. I would get ready for competition, so I'd have 12 to 16 weeks that I would be on this specific diet that was really good for you. And then after the competition, I'd be at the pizza place. After the pizza place, we'd go to the ice cream parlor and we'd get ice cream. I'd go right back into my old ways after a competition. So there was a lot more bad eating than there was good eating. My last competition was when I was 34 years of age. I stopped bodybuilding from a competitive standpoint, but still was very much active all the way into my mid-40s.
I was at my house one day and I was bouncing from one thing to the next. And it was in a moment where I knew I was scattered all over the place. I was a typical stay-at-home mom. I paused in that moment and I reflected on my life and I asked God, who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose? And I remember just going into my closet. I reached up, grabbed a bag, and there was a book inside the bag. And when I opened the book, it was When a Woman Discovers Her Dream. I've never seen the book before, couldn't tell you how I got the book. I just knew that it was relevant for the prayer that I had just prayed and the question that I had just asked God. And so I knelt down by my bed and I started reading this book. The book takes you through a series of questions and short stories about women who have lost their way in life through various challenges and trials and disappointments. It was relatable to me. It was in that moment that I really started seeking God in the direction that I was to go. I went through a certification to become a Christian life coach. During that time, I was seeking God just as I normally would do on a daily basis. I knew about this cafe. I knew the name, the color, the purpose, the menu, really. I thought that it was going to be for somebody that I would eventually work with one day until I mentioned it to my coach and she asked me the million-dollar question, what would make you think that it's not for you? And at that moment, I started seeking God's direction for this cafe, and the confirmations just did not stop at that point. They just did not stop.
Welcome to Revelations Cafe. How are you?
So when Mia had this revelation about Revelations Cafe, she said that she was vowed that there would be no meat in this cafe, that it would be a completely vegetarian menu with more of an emphasis on plant-based.
I was a vegetarian. I ate eggs and cheese. My boys are carnivores, so it's not like we don't have meat, dairy, and eggs in our home. But I knew that the plant-based concept was a part of the plan. I told Robby, let's just put it in God's hands, and when it's time, He will not let it pass us by. We were at a family dinner. My ex-husband, Martin, was there, and my sister-in-law asked me about the cafe, and Martin overheard her ask. He never knew anything about the cafe, so he asked, what cafe are you talking about? And he was getting ready to leave to go to a plant-based seminar.
Mia being my ex-wife, we've had a good relationship. Robby came into the picture, they got married. Robby's a great guy, we get along great. Mia and Robby really wanted to do this together. The fact that it was going to be vegan-based was an added bonus. So I had no qualms in going into business with them and letting them run the show.
Vegetarian was not my thing. I was going to be someone who consumed meat. I was a protein guy. I ate a lot of eggs. I ate a lot of chicken, beef. I was not on board with this plant-based vegetarian cafe at all.
As far as the challenges of the location, the original location that we went to was an existing restaurant, and it did have a kitchen. And then that fell through in the last minute.
We went into this location that was a mattress store, and it was completely unbuilt. There was only one bathroom in the corner, that's all there was, and it was a blank slate. When Mia and I looked at each other in front of the landlord, we said, we'll take it. That was probably the craziest thing because now we had to build it.
Going into a non-existent restaurant, there were a lot of obstacles that looked like it wouldn't be possible. But with God, all things are possible.
It was September 2nd of 2018, It was a normal day. It was a day to go train. I went to the gym.
Robby had been experiencing chest pains for a couple of months. He didn't want to go to the doctor. He didn't really think that it was anything major. He decided that he would come to the gym with me and push himself, thinking that this pain would dissipate.
That particular day, I was doing a hanging leg raise where I had actually pulled my knees up to my chest and you twist your body each time you do the movement. And that's when I started to have the intense pain in my chest.
I was upstairs on the treadmill. I was watching him downstairs. I could see him repeatedly grabbing his chest. I walked downstairs and he looked at me and he was as white as a ghost. And he motioned and mouthed the words, "I'm done."
She saw how pale I was and knew that something was terribly wrong.
I knew that he was having a heart attack. We proceeded to go to the hospital. We got stuck by the red light.
She had laid her hands on me and was praying for me to just hold on and to make it to the hospital.
You know, when I met Robby and you saw his EKG, it looked abnormal. His symptoms sounded very typical for heart symptoms. But then you look at him physically, he's in great physical shape, exercises, he's not overweight, he doesn't smoke. And certainly, when you're burning a lot of calories, you don't appear to be unhealthy on the outside. But the unfortunate reality is you are unhealthy on the inside.
They stabilized me by getting me on nitroglycerin right away.
We did what's called a heart catheterization, which revealed he had a significant blockage in his widowmaker artery, requiring a stent to be placed at that time. That same procedure, he also had plaque buildup in multiple smaller vessels. And then the right coronary artery also had an 80% blockage.
When I heard that, I was very much almost in disbelief. Although I do have a history in my family of cardiovascular disease, I thought because I was such a gym rat that there was no way that this was ever going to touch me. It was very humbling. At the same time, it made me angry inside because I felt like this shouldn't have happened, but it did.
Definitely, I've seen many, many more patients, young patients, I'm talking in the 30s, coming in with major heart attacks, and that's a frightening thing to see. It seems to be linked to the population boom and more restaurants, more places to eat. It's very unusual to see somebody who has multiple blockages, as Mr. Graham had, long-term do well, because most patients don't change.
And it was at that time that I had received a phone call from a true friend of mine, and he said to me, "Robby, I've got something I would like to send you."
Our next guest on the Stress Free You show, my friend, Robby Graham. I immediately went to Amazon, ordered the book, How to Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease by Dr. Esselstyn, sent it to you, and you got it, and how did that react to you?
I had already started recovery from my heart attack, but I was eating such things as salmon, I was eating lean cuts of chicken, and I thought that I was doing the right thing. I was kind of on a Mediterranean diet, but once I started to read the Esselstyn book, I realized immediately that I was not at all doing anything to help reduce my cholesterol levels or change the condition of my arteries if I was going to continue eating the way I was. And I was so excited because now I could truly get behind the vision that Mia originally had.
I'm on my way home, and when I drove by, I saw the sign said Revelation Cafe. There was a sign up there. So I stopped in the middle of the road, backed up, pulled my car to the side, put my flashes on. I said, well, I'm just gonna go in here and meet these people. I don't know, I'm just gonna meet them. Mia ran to the door and was holding the door shut. I'm trying to figure out why this lady holding the door shut. I don't know this lady, why she don't want me to come in the building. And then she eased back and she said, you can't come in here unless you come in here to bless this place. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Good God Almighty, hallelujah, amen and amen. Woo! Jesus. Amen.
February 22nd, 2019, just happened to be our grand opening, and we knew that it was going to be a special day. Hi guys, welcome. How are you? We had a record crowd that day, not only from our church family, but from the community in general.
We wanted people to come in and not feel like they were in a restaurant, but to come in and feel like they were in someone's house.
2 acai bowls.
Love is why we're here. It only makes sense to us to portray the word love in our cafe.
Hey girls, just wanted to come over and say thanks again for coming into Revelations Cafe.
I want you. I want you. So when you come in and you order at the cafe, you get a little number and you go and sit down and there's a little cylinder that you can put your cell phone in so you can have your time with your family. So we put conversation starter cards in the cylinders on the table just to give people a topic to discuss. We also asked questions that we wanted them to write down and leave for us. We keep a little bookshelf with some of the books that we have found useful in our walk.
Hey guys, who had the garden omelet?
Right here.
Awesome, there you go, young man.
The first year was like a blur. Learning new things, adjusting to this new way of life after being a stay-at-home mom for 22 years. But the people made it a lot easier. The relationships are the part that really wake us up and keep us going every day.
We're working on your food right now. We'll be out in just a minute, buddy. Thanks for coming in. When they walked in, they felt an atmosphere of peace, of love, of joy. They felt these different feelings, and they found themselves having divine appointments and meetings with people where ideas were being birthed.
We've got 2 vegan burgers. Yes. Here you go. Thank you. You're welcome. Enjoy.
You have 2 people that have absolutely no business going into the restaurant business. But for some reason, we were called to do this, but we had no idea what we were doing. How all of this came to be is a miracle. So when I was 44 years of age and I went through a divorce, that's when I really got motivated once again to get back into the bodybuilding. I was training extremely hard, very heavy, pushing myself. And being in my 40s, what had happened is I was doing some heavy squats one day and I really blew my back out considerably. Doctor told me it was the S1 through L5. I could have been put in a wheelchair. At that moment in time, I was introduced to opiates because of the pain that I had. I had severe pains. So they put me on an opiate program. That was the first moment in time that I recognized that I'd actually enjoyed something that made me feel incredible. Opiates were the biggest lie that I've ever been involved with.
I didn't know when it went from painkillers to recreational. He hid that very well.
I was on top of the world at that time. I had all of the toys. I was advancing in my career for a big corporation in the seafood industry. I was well on my way, and then I had this injury. I became more and more involved with getting the drugs illegally. I never thought, being a criminology major in college, that one day I would be the absolute person that I despised growing up. When I looked at someone that I had become, I was very, very against people who use drugs on a regular basis, and here I'd become exactly what I despised. Over the course of a 2-year period, my addiction basically cost me everything.
He sold his Corvette, he sold his beautiful Harley, his jet ski, he sold his house. I was told from him the reason why he was selling this stuff is because he needed to make his bills. But that wasn't the truth. It was for buying drugs.
It was at the time that I was in my early 50s that I was beaten, broken, and defeated. that I find myself on my knees, looking at myself in the mirror, wondering who I'd become. I didn't even know who I was anymore. I was at the bottom. I was at my bottom.
I was told by a couple of friends that this is what was happening. At that point, we all got together and said, if we don't help Robby, this could be tragic.
And it was at that moment that I cried out to a close friend who just happened to be on the board of directors at the Salvation Army. And instead of turning his back on me, he gave me the opportunity to come into the program and asked me to make a commitment to do 6 months at the Salvation Army.
When he did end up here at the Salvation Army, he walked in with the shirt on his back. That's all he had, nothing else.
My first time in the Salvation Army Chapel was the time that I stood up to the song Amazing Grace. When I stood up, I was brought to my knees and shown the depravity of my situation by my Lord and Savior. I knew at that moment something inside of me changed. And I look back now and recognize that that was the turning point in my life where I knew that there was a purpose, that God had created me for something specific. And that now I was going to do what I was created for.
After the 30-day point, they allowed visitors. I was happy to see that he was okay. He wasn't a beaten man. That was the good thing to see. That made me feel real well. His spirit was very good, very uplifting. He acknowledged his addiction, and he was going to do everything he could to change it.
Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We are a plant-based cafe. When I was going through my divorce, I started drinking. I was always a social drinker, and I drank just socially on the weekends. Once I got divorced, I started drinking on a daily basis. There was always a reason to drink. Let's go for lunch, have a liquid lunch. And then I started drinking by myself rather than at social occasions, which eventually led me to a place of emptiness. I looked at myself in the mirror one day and I realized that I was not who I was supposed to be. I knew that my soul was dark. I was seeking something that I couldn't find in a bottle of alcohol. I did stop drinking, I cut back. That's when I started on my journey, my soul-searching journey, and when I surrendered to God. Immediately, the obsession to drink was removed from me. In 2013, after I had been in AA for a year, I was at a meeting. I happened to see a man who was facing the opposite way. I didn't see his face, but I saw his bracelet. And so I reached over and I popped his bracelet, and it says, "Better Together."
Next thing I know, I felt somebody come up behind me and pop this bracelet on my wrist. And there was Mia smiling at me and said, "Nice bracelet." She was wearing the same bracelet, and we have been together ever since. That was approximately 7 years ago.
Oh, I love you. During the first year, we really experienced a tremendous response with repeat customers. In September, October, I knew that we were going to be coming up on our 1 year, and I wanted to just reevaluate the whole brand altogether to see if there were some things that we wanted to change. Ultimately, we really want to promote the whole food, plant-based lifestyle. I really started feeling like there would be a reset or a relaunch. None of us could have predicted that our whole world was about to change.
A SARS-like virus, which has infected hundreds in China, has now reached the United States.
The first death from coronavirus here in the United States.
Now to growing concerns about the deadly coronavirus.
Coronavirus.
Hundreds across Florida have been diagnosed with the coronavirus. Governor Ron DeSantis declaring a public health emergency.
This has been the deadliest week in Florida since the COVID-19 pandemic began.
Eerily empty and strangely quiet. It's not the usual sight you'd expect to see on
On a warm Saturday afternoon, the beaches will remain closed to help stop the spread of COVID-19.
When COVID started to hit, I was shocked a little bit by the fact that restaurants were starting to close down. People were really becoming affected by this virus.
Everyone started to go into lockdown mode. It was, I believe, March 15th was when we closed the doors at Revelations Cafe. I've never experienced such a thing in our country before, to where everything came to a grinding halt. I reflect back and some of the times we were sitting here on those first few days and they started to mandate everybody shut things down. It was like a ghost town around here.
Once we closed everything up, all of a sudden it just hit me about what so many other people were going through at that time, and specifically people who were already in strained situations in their life, strained relationships, that this was just gonna magnify their situations even more. And during that time, we really just hit the pause button. We took the time to just reevaluate and to sit back down at the drawing board and to make the connections that we felt were paramount for where we were heading in the future.
My relationship with Robby and Mia started when a good friend of mine frequently visited the cafe and said, "You've got to connect with this couple, Lori." I started a company called Plant Craver, and my company, we were preparing plant-based, no oil meals. And I had a lot of clients in the Tampa Bay area that I was delivering to each week. I went in and introduced myself to Mia.
I always knew that we would do meal plans. It wasn't a good time for us. During the COVID shutdown, I reached out to her to see if she was still interested in connecting and just seeing where that would take us.
One day I get a phone call from Mia, and she said, "Lori, I have just had you on my mind so much. I've wanted to do a meal plan at the cafe."
I was able to reconnect with her, which is a relationship that is instrumental in the future of Revelations Cafe.
It's just Mia and Lori. It's the Mia and Lori show.
Growing up in Illinois, in a very small town, Charleston, I am the youngest of 7, so I have 6 older siblings, 3 brothers and 3 sisters. My mom was a chef, so she taught us from a very young age how to cook. My first toy that I remember growing up was an easy bake oven.
Easy bake, fast as you can. Mix 'em up, pour 'em in the pan.
I remember getting to bake this little bitty cake in this oven that had a light bulb attached. And when that cake came out and was finished, that's where my love for food, that's when it started. It was all over from there.
Our mom was a fantastic cook. She cooked everything from scratch, but we always had fried meat. We had potatoes and lots of desserts cooked with oil. So we grew up eating the typical meal that most America was eating, but we had no idea how it was going to affect us.
As we got older, some things changed with some of my siblings. I have 2 brothers who've had 2 heart attacks, triple and quadruple bypass surgeries, stents.
And to look at them, you'd never know. I mean, they are thin, they're not smokers. It was a shock to all of us when that happened. For probably the last 15 years, I had high cholesterol. Even though I walked every day, I wasn't a smoker, really ate, I thought, what was a healthy diet. Which healthy to me was not going to McDonald's every day, but not really eating healthy. When I was 54, I was on a vacation in San Diego. For some reason, I would be walking down the road and I'd be out of breath, which was so unusual for me. Thought, well, maybe I'm out of shape. Didn't know really what to think. Got home on Monday morning, got into my doctor immediately. Thank God they knew me well enough to know something was really wrong. And that day, they said, you have to stay with us. And they got me right into the heart cath lab. And the whole time they were doing the procedure, my doctor said, if you would have gone home and not had that stress test, you would have either died in the night in your sleep, or you would have hit the floor the next morning and you would have died. Because it was my main artery and it was 99% blocked. So I was that close to dying.
When I got a position in healthcare, it was 2011. The owner of the company handed me a book, and the book was called Forks Over Knives. And he said, take this home, read it, tell me what you think. Then I got my husband to watch the documentary with me, and overnight, we became vegans. In healthcare, we had to do a yearly screening. I had a cholesterol test done. My cholesterol was 257. And that's when I said, I have to make some definite changes. And my husband found another book, and he said, Lori, we have to give up oil. And I said, I'm a chef, I can't give up oil. We use oil in everything. That's when we got oil out of our diet completely. I had another cholesterol test. It shot down into the 180s. And my husband, he had high blood pressure. Within weeks of him being on the diet, it came down to a normal. Probably 6 months after my sister had had a heart attack, she was talking to her cardiologist. She said, Lori, my cardiologist gave me this book. I don't know the foods that they're talking about in this cookbook. I have no idea what to do.
And she said, I'll coach you for 30 days. If you're willing, we'll do it together. I guess I shouldn't call it a diet. It was a life change. And I said, I feel like a new person. I personally lost 25 pounds in a month. My husband lost like 30 or 35, which was crazy. He felt great. He had more energy than he'd ever felt before. Everybody in the little small town of Charleston, Illinois started saying to her, what are you and your husband doing? You look good. They started calling me, can you come to Charleston and can you teach a class on how to become whole food plant-based? And so I did it. It was so much fun. And so then I knew I'm onto something here. That's what I'm supposed to do. I'm just supposed to help people.
Use a little chia seed just to decorate the outside.
Mia and I invited Lori to join our team to make our menu even healthier while we were still shut down.
Oh my gosh, that is so good.
We then took the time to research the plant-based diet to see how we could use it beyond just the food in our cafe. We were then deeply involved with watching many times over the documentaries, Forks Over Knives, and Plant Pure Nation.
This could be the first generation of children in the United States that lives less than its parents.
We were becoming familiar with the Plant Pure RX program, that food is medicine. We knew that the Plant Pure RX program would be something that Martin would be really, really interested in.
Dr. Kapolsky, I got my bachelor's degree from USF in long-term care administration way back in '83. My father being a physician, he opened up his own office. I started working with him in the field of medicine and primary care. We eventually took that to the next level from owning just 1 or 2 clinics to then doing an IPA, Independent Practice Association, which encompasses many practices and multiple physicians practicing under that umbrella. Veramed, or IPA, has close to 15,000 Medicare Advantage lives. The Medicare program, by having these value-based contracts with the health plans, the Medicare HMOs, they basically shift the burden of risk and financial expenditures that are caused by healthcare to the health plans, and therefore the U.S. government is no longer at risk for anything above and beyond what they've already allotted for the budgeted amounts to the Medicare Advantage plans. The cost can be extreme, it can be volatile. We're very aware of the cost of everything from the $5 medication to the $150 specialist visit to the hospitalizations that can range in tens of thousands of dollars. We are ultimately responsible for every dollar that's expended for that patient's health care throughout their time with us.
When we heard about their plant-based program for doctors, we reached out to Nelson and Kim Campbell. A few years back, Nelson directed a film that documented dramatic health reversals in just 10 days using plant-based foods. Their program provided daily lunches and dinners along with education. Everyone had biometric testing before and after the 10-day jumpstart.
And we did this in a couple small towns in North Carolina, and I couldn't believe the results we got. It was incredible. On average, we saw total cholesterol going down 20-25%. I'd say over 80% of the people who were medicated going into the Jumpstart had the option by the end to reduce or eliminate those medications. People with type 2 diabetes, reversal of their diabetes. It was incredible.
We've presented the plant-based Jumpstart program to our physicians. Our physicians were wondering about engagement and compliance of patients to this program.
There's one diet after another that works for some people, and the numbers look good, and then 6 months down the road, it's not so good.
They actually asked if there have been any studies, and we were able to find a study by Dr. Esselstyn that showed that he did have a certain group 89% compliance. A lot of that depends on how involved the physicians are with engaging their own patients.
Morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Doc.
Dr. Esselstyn, I'd like to take this opportunity to extend my gratitude. But I opened your book and I started to read it, and I involved my wife, and she started looking at a lot of the recipes. And when I went and got my second set of results, my cardiologist nearly fell out of his chair. He says, whatever you're doing, don't stop. So I just wanted to personally thank you for your book. It was life-changing for me.
Well, the story I wanted to share with you was, this is a 45-year-old gentleman who in July of 2017 had a heart attack. And at the time of his catheterization and his angiogram, he had an 80% blockage of his circumflex artery that goes to the back of the heart. And in addition, he had other blockages, which made his cardiologist decide that he should have bypass surgery. But the patient declined the operation. His option was to try to treat this with diet. The cardiologist reluctantly agreed, and a year later decided it was time to get another angiogram. And lo and behold, the blockage that had been 80% was now 40% blocked. So the patient continued on the diet because obviously he was making progress, and it was another 18 months after that second angiogram that he had his third and final one, which showed that now the blockage was absolutely 100% resolved. At that point, he wrote a letter to me thanking me for writing the book. Cardiologists, as you probably are aware, never receive any nutrition training in medical school, nor do they get any in their postgraduate years. So here they are, really bereft of the basic knowledge of the causation of the illness that they've been designated to treat.
We do have close to 15,000 Medicare lives in our practices with our group of physicians. We're having difficulty getting some of these patients to attempt the plant-based diet, to see how it can and will improve them. At least a 10-day jumpstart that we've talked about before. That seems to be a bit of a barrier, more so than we realize, trying to get patients to do the pilot program for the plant-based food.
I was really quite apprehensive in that first study I started back in 1985 that the rock upon which this was going to falter would be lack of patient compliance. When we wrote up our last 200 patients back in July of 2014, we found that it was 89.3%, almost 90% who were compliant. Now, how do we get that? Number one, I think you've got to show a patient respect. The only way that I know to show a patient respect is to give them my time. You got to give them the science.
And as you know, Martin, you've witnessed it for 2 years. I've been steadfast on staying plant-based, and I just feel like I keep getting better every day. I feel better.
Each patient, Doc, has to reach his or her own tipping point. You know, Robby had his, I had mine. We need to, I think, expend more time speaking with them, educating them to see how many of them will actually join the program.
Why isn't it that every patient should be offered this straightforward, simple option of treating the causation of the illness? After all, that's been the basic covenant of trust between the caregiver and the patient since the days of Hippocrates, that whenever possible, the caregiver will share with the patient what is the causation of the illness. And sadly today, in cardiovascular medicine, that's really not being done. Nice job, guys. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Doc. Take care. Bye-bye.
A new CDC coronavirus report outlines conditions that put you in what it describes as a high-risk group.
Several underlying conditions.
If you have a compromised immune system, you are more likely to be in trouble.
Those with chronic conditions like high blood pressure.
There's a little bit of concern for anyone who has any kind of an underlying heart condition.
There is very convincing evidence that people with high blood pressure have worse outcomes when they develop COVID-19 infections.
The best way to fight something like this is internally, to improve your immune system.
I did have a history of working in healthcare. A typical healthcare budget is between $4 and $6 a day per patient. What that means is a lot of processed foods, a lot of canned foods, a lot of sugary desserts, because you only have so much money to work with. A typical meal would be hot dogs, hamburgers and French fries, pizzas. I realized that a lot of the patients that were in the facilities that I worked in, that was the diet that they had eaten most of their lives. They give you so little in the budget for food that you're forced to deliver a product to the patients that has no nutritional value. Most of the time, you don't even get broccoli because that's too expensive. That's outside of the budget.
Across the country, nursing homes have been hit hard during this pandemic. According to new data, 1 out of every 3 COVID deaths is a nursing home resident or worker.
That may cause some concern for those who have loved ones in these types of facilities.
And tonight, it's growing increasingly clear these facilities are the new epicenter of the crisis.
We're in a tough situation now. The COVID case rates are exploding, hospitalizations exploding. Over 95% of the people who are succumbing to COVID-19 are people who have pre-existing conditions, which are mostly chronic conditions that are caused by poor nutrition. Despite this truth being known decades ago, we eat the wrong food in large part because our government, the industries that benefit from the status quo, have suppressed this truth for decades. So this pandemic is the price that we're paying as a society for those decades of deceit.
The fall of 2019, I remember it so vividly. I was home visiting in Illinois. All my siblings and I took my mom and dad out. And we danced with my mom and dad, and we had the best night ever. The next night, my mom fell in her home and she broke her hip. She went into a nursing home and she rehabbed in the nursing home. Just in March, the coronavirus hit.
It was heartbreaking for us because not only could we not see her, we couldn't even pass food to her through the doors. And Lori, of course, Lori came home and that's all she wanted to do was let's get her some food, and we couldn't.
More than 20 people at Charleston Rehab and Healthcare have tested positive.
Once it started to spread, it got up to 80 individuals, patients and staff that had the virus. A couple weeks later, COVID took her life. It was Mother's Day. When my mom passed away, she was the 9th person in that nursing home that passed away from COVID.
Before Mom went to the nursing home, she was starting to have a little bit of memory problems, so I got to be the one taking care of all of her medication. And it was so overwhelming because she was taking like 20 different bottles of medication.
She was on a lot of meds. I believe that her immune system was compromised because of her diet. I know that her immune system was trying to repair and rebuild, but she was weak. And if you're not getting the nutrition that you need, how is your body supposed to repair? I definitely know that that was not happening for her. I've seen patients and residents that are in the facilities that I've worked in, some of them on 20 meds, 20 different meds. You can tell just by their appearance that it has affected every part of them. It seems like it's backwards. It seems like at our age that we are and younger that we should be learning a different lifestyle. So that when we do get to that point and retire, we can actually retire somewhere and still feel vibrant and healthy and not be on all the medications.
My son-in-law told me a little bit about a plant-based diet, so I looked into it a little bit more. I was almost 80 at the time. I didn't have any very serious health issues, but still I was feeling dragged down and tired a lot. I thought, well, I'm going to give this a try. First of all, I'll just give up meat. And hey, I was doing okay. Everything tasted fine. So then I thought, I'll go all the way. I'll do the dairy and the eggs. And I think giving up frozen yogurt was the most difficult decision I had to make. I could not believe within 2 weeks, I felt so much better. I had more energy. I felt a complete sense of health and feeling very close to my body, understanding how I felt. And I dropped down 2 sizes without giving up any amount of food. I was still eating a lot, and I still do, but I maintained the same weight. I've done an awful lot of traveling in the last 10 years. I've been to quite a few countries: Africa, Italy, Alaska, a Scandinavian tour, Japan, and Spain. It was just a lot of walking. We didn't have any cars. I've managed to keep up with everyone, all the young people. I didn't have to stop and rest at all. The younger generation were all going everywhere, and I kept up with them. I didn't slow down a bit. I used to be the butt of a lot of jokes with some of the disasters that I cooked in my kitchen. I could ruin a good piece of meat very easily. Once I got plant-based, I found out it's very, very difficult to mess up some good veggies. And they have a flavor of their own, and they're delicious no matter what you do with them. I've started to enjoy cooking, which I never did before. And it's very colorful, isn't it? Oh, it's very important to exercise. I've been in a group of ladies for almost 38 years now that we've exercised together. And we're still doing it by Zoom 3 mornings a week. I meet my daughter in a park 6 mornings a week, and we do about 1.5 miles in the woods every morning. This morning I have my grandson with us.
Hey.
And this is Carolina. My church has continued to keep their food pantry open throughout the pandemic. 3 mornings a week. We're one of the very few that stayed open. I volunteer 1 day a week to go over and help load bags with food. It's very hard to keep up with it sometimes, and it's very strenuous work. And they all marvel at the fact that I'm 90 and I'm still keeping up with all of this work. All of my contemporary friends, unfortunately, have a lot of illness. They are just taking fistful of pills every day. There's adult diabetes, there's a lot of high blood pressure, cholesterol problems. Most of my friends have had at least one stroke. One of my closest friends has had 2 strokes already. But they don't see a connection with their diet. They think I'm weird. I think they're weird because they'd rather take drugs and feel miserable than to be healthy.
Pharmaceuticals are, in my opinion, out of control. So many of these chronic conditions that our physicians see every day are, if not preventable, possibly reversible. When I was in college back in the 80s and 90s, I believe 11–12% of our gross national product was going towards healthcare expenditures. That number is now closer to 20% of our gross domestic spending in this country. MedPAC is one of the Medicare agencies that every couple of years tells us how Medicare is going to run out of money in 2 years or 3 years. And every year we see that number extended out because we're playing the shell game with healthcare and the expenditures. It's not sustainable.
So the reason I made Plant Pure Nation was to really answer that question that so many people have when they first learn about this, which is, how could this have been suppressed for decades? And you know what's really most disturbing? Is even to this day, our government's not telling the truth, and neither is the media. In fact, I don't know if you've ever been to the CDC website.
I haven't been, no.
Okay, I want to show you something.
Let's take a look. I got my laptop right here.
Right on the home page here, it says, learn more about COVID-19. These are people who are the ones most likely to experience the worst effects of COVID. So let's go here. So they're talking here about social distancing, wear masks, wash hands. And then finally it says here, stay healthy, right? There's not a single word about nutrition.
Not one.
In fact, if you go on that whole page, because I've looked at it, the word nutrition doesn't even appear.
The failure of government to acknowledge the power of nutrition is familiar to Nelson. In the 1980s, his father, Dr. T. Colin Campbell, led the most comprehensive nutrition study ever conducted in China. When his science pointed to plant-based foods as the most optimal for human health, he encountered pushback from his own university, industry and government groups, and professional societies. It took a best-selling book for his scientific research to finally reach a wide audience.
My topic is about an issue that, politically speaking, is about as warm as it can get. It's about the healthcare crisis.
Okay, Dr. Campbell, it is such an honor to be a part of this conversation. I just want you to know what your research, your passion, how it changed my life, it changed my husband's life, my children, my family.
Well, thank you. You're so kind. But, you know, what really makes it work are people like you to hear something and then turn around and tell someone else.
COVID has exposed our nation's poor health. What can a whole food, plant-based diet do for our immune system? What can it do to help build it?
Most of the people who are actually suffering the really serious consequences of coronavirus, they're compromised. And the reason they're compromised is because they weren't eating the right food during their lifetime. You all know, I guess, about the China study. It was mostly focused on heart disease, cancer, diabetes, so forth. When this coronavirus came along, I remember, you know, we had a couple of viral diseases in that study too. So I went back and looked at the data. It really is pretty spectacular. In this case, I'm talking about hepatitis B virus. That's the worst virus of all. That kills like 700 and some thousand people a year. When people get exposed to a virus, the first thing that happens, the body comes into play and uses the immune system to try to defend itself against the virus. Plant-based foods cause immunity to form. They support the development of antibodies. Animal-based foods actually keep the virus in the active form and therefore causes liver cancer. Just like this, it's a big divergence. So what we see with respect to nutrition and the virus diseases is the same thing we're seeing with respect to all degenerative diseases, heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and so forth. It's the same formula. This coronavirus, all I'm saying is the virus we studied is hepatitis, liver cancer virus. And so I will get criticized from some of my medical colleagues. Well, that's not coronavirus. I said, wait a minute. All the viruses go through the same portal. That's the immune system. But the one way we can actually create immunity, eat the right food. Just simple, it's just very simple. Eat the right food.
We want you to know that your efforts have really lit a fire under all of us. And we're so grateful for that because I came from a family with heart disease and I was vegetarian for a really long time and still ate eggs and cheese. And my cholesterol was through the roof. Now I have eliminated the eggs and the dairy in my diet completely, and I feel better than ever.
I transitioned as a chef from meat and dairy to whole food, plant-based, no oil. And so now I'm excited about getting it out to the community in Tampa Bay that we are a cafe that they can come in and have this incredible food that tastes so good, and they don't have to compromise their health because of it.
That sounds fantastic. I want to come to your place, but
I want you to. I want to feed you.
Thanks, Dr. Campbell. Look forward to seeing you in person someday soon.
Thank you very much.
All right, have a blessed day, Doctor.
What happened to me in 2019, I woke up early, 5:30 in the morning with severe heart palpitations. Just didn't feel well at all, very lightheaded and dizzy. I was in severe AFib. I was actually in the hospital for 2 days. They put me on a medication to regulate my heartbeat, and from that point, they released me to go home. Even though I was on the medication, I still wasn't eating very well, not exercising regularly, sluggish, constantly taking naps. My blood pressure was skyrocketed. I was 204 pounds at one point, where I should be somewhere down in the 170s. My doctor was listening to my heart, and he noticed that my heart murmur was more prevalent. So he wanted to do an echocardiogram to find out why. When I went back to see him for the results, they found aorta regurgitation. The cardiologist informed me that the only way to replace the heart valve is open heart surgery. When he told me that, that scared me. I didn't want to have to go through any type of open heart surgery. As soon as Robby opened Revelations Cafe, I started coming here to eat. At my last visit to the cardiologist, I told him that I had had a lifestyle change in nutrition and that I was going completely plant-based. He was very receptive with the plant-based diet. He said if you continue on the plant-based diet that you're doing and keeping your blood pressure at a low level, he said you should be able to work through this naturally without any type of open heart surgery to replace the valve. He said stay on that, keep your course. I'll see you in another 6 months and we'll go from there. What's ironic looking back, when I helped Robby through his addiction, seeing Robby in the hospital after his heart attack, and now Robby helping me with my plant-based diet to get heart healthy. We always told each other that we'd be there for each other. I was there for him during his darkest hours, and now he's here for me to help me through my health issues and get clean and happy and healthy.
I'm really looking forward to meeting Kim and Nelson Campbell. And I think that just providing the food is only a small portion of the mission of Revelations Cafe, and that's where the Plant Pure Pods will come into play, educating the community on why we eat plant-based.
So welcome to our
This is beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. This is Lori, so you guys get a chance to meet Lori.
Hi. Lori, heard about you. You're the chef.
This is on our lunch menu. This is our egg salad sandwich. It's made with avocados. And then it's my mushroom risotto. It's one of my plant craver meals. Pass that around and sample it, and I'll just keep bringing different things out. This one is my mushroom carbonara. It is rice pasta. This is a Dijon mustard and a cashew-based sauce. So this is our lo mein. We use tofu. The secret is the sauce. I brought you all our raw vegan pumpkin cheesecake and our salted vegan caramels. And then these are our hallelujah bars. They have vegan chocolate. I actually made those for my patients in healthcare.
So I'm excited about what the future holds with Plant Pure Nation and with the Campbells and learning more about the Plant Pure communities. I believe they can help us with developing the pod and really being an essential connector for people in the community, in the Tampa Bay area, really.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight at Revelations Cafe. We're so excited that you could join us. This is going to be our first pod meeting here at the Revelations Cafe, and we were fortunate enough to be blessed by Kim and Nelson Campbell from Plant Pure Communities. So we're so grateful for them to come here tonight.
We are so blessed to have this opportunity. Here we are today, and the purpose, it's about the food, but it's more than just about the food. It's about the mind, the body, and the spirit, and creating an atmosphere for people to come and to grow.
It's really great to see you here. A lot of times when we start a pod, we only have one person who gets excited and they go to the website and they sign up, and then they go get one other person or two people, and then it just sort of takes off. So you are off to a good start if you've got this many folks. The whole idea is to bring people together to form real human relationships to make change. We need good public policies, but we can't always look to our government to fix all of our problems. There are deep-rooted problems in our society. We have intergenerational poverty that's becoming worse and worse. We have health problems, we have environmental problems. We're trying to create new resources, new project ideas that the community generates so that we can create this circular process of social invention and social learning to create a collective entrepreneurial mind that no government anywhere could ever match. And that's what this idea of a pod is all about. This is an opportunity for you to begin building a group right here, to connect with one another, get to know one another, and start making change in your own community. All right. Okay, thanks.
I'm going to bring up Kim and our Revelations Cafe plant craver very own Lori Martin. So without further ado, guys, thank you so much. Give it up for Kim and Lori.
One of the first things that people say to me when they switch over or they're thinking about going plant-based is it's so expensive. This is such an expensive way to eat. A lot of people look at the processed vegan, you know, Beyond Meat, Impossible Burger, the vegan cheeses. Yes, they're very expensive when you buy those things, but if you're eating whole food, plant-based, it's probably one of the least expensive ways to eat. So Lori and I, our project was to come up with a recipe and try to keep it under $30, right?
It was a great challenge. We took a grocery shopping trip to Publix. We went our separate ways. Kim decided she was going to do something with
African stew. I'm
you were
using
doing African
sweet
stew.
potatoes, yes.
And I was going to do a lentil stew. So we both went our separate ways, and we came up. You were just over $30. Her recipe, she was actually going to have some leftover ingredients. So you were probably right around 30. And I was just about at 30. We figured out that we could feed almost 40 people.
Yeah.
Under $1.50 a person. That is a lot of food. Plant-based food, right?
During the COVID shutdown, Lori Martin made our food healthier. Martin Ravello began to promote food as medicine to his doctors. And we launched our own Plant Pure Communities pod to help spread the word about the plant-based lifestyle. The last thing we had to do was reopen the cafe.
In September 2018, Robby Graham had a massive heart attack while working out.
He was homeless and addicted to drugs, and today he's the proud owner of a cafe in Lutz.
We want to be able to be a beacon of light in a dark world.
When you first walk inside, it may seem like any other cafe, but they do a lot more than just serve coffee and breakfast. Revelations also has a story and a purpose.
I mean, from the second you walk in, it's just very like vibrant, a lot of colors. And there's a nice vibe to it, definitely.
It was pretty busy when I walked in the door. I right away walked around and looked at how beautiful the place is. It's decorated beautifully.
Yep, gotcha.
The boys are coming in to hang out at Revelations Cafe, get a little fuel.
We love this place.
And it comes with sauteed mushrooms and onions.
They have BLTs, burgers. You wouldn't picture it to be a vegan place.
The menu just looked so good.
Oh, I had a buffalo chicken, man. It's pretty good. The sweet potato fries are really good, too.
The menu's great.
You're gonna love it, Doug, trust me.
I ordered that rainbow salad, which was out of this world. Can't even believe the size of it, and I finished the whole thing.
I would definitely come back to this place. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a place this unique.
We live in the area, so we'll be here quite frequently.
We need more. We need more of these. This is amazing. I wish there was one of these next to every McDonald's.
I do prefer to eat more plant-based foods.
We place little messages on the lids of each beverage.
I like that when I got my drink, there's a little handwritten note that said Merci on it, and everybody else's was different.
Some of them say, let your light shine, and others say, make a brand new ending, and some talk about just being the love that people need to see, and some of them are just a heart, but you just never know what somebody's going through and how that one little symbol, that one little token can really impact their day. I envisioned a prayer board, so I asked our contractor to make a prayer board with the leftover pieces of wood. And on the particular day where he was constructing this actual board, a friend showed up to bring me a gift that I had no idea about, and it was the exact board that the contractor was making. Unbeknownst to us, God had put it on her heart to make the board for the cafe. We have a table with cards where people, when they go to the bathroom to wash their hands, they come out and they see the wall and they write prayer requests on there. We even have intercessors who come and take the prayer requests off the wall and take them and pray over them.
If you have a prayer request, pick up a piece of chalk, write your request, or write a quote. Write something on the wall that has inspired you that might inspire someone else. It's really outside the box.
The prayer room is a very wonderful touch. We love that too.
So the prayer room became an idea based on the room that I had in my home, which was specifically for prayer. Sometimes we all need a place just to go sit and not be surrounded by things, just to be still and to be quiet. We really wanted to offer that not only to our employees, but to our guests as a unique experience.
Hey. Yeah, I want to get the rainbow salad. Okay. Matthew 7:7 says, ask and you shall receive, seek and you shall find, knock and the door shall be open. Robby and Mia knocked on God's heart. God opened the door and he blessed them because they've been faithful. No matter where they've been, what they've done in their life, they were faithful to one another and faithful to Christ. And look what God has given them. So prayer is the key to everything.
Healing and deliverance, I think, starts in our kitchen with our staff. And we know that we're all broken people, just trying to do the best we can. And a lot of times people haven't been given opportunities in life.
Happy birthday, dear Robby. Happy birthday to
you. Revelations Cafe is about love and forgiveness.
I love that psalm that you have on your wall, Psalm 33. By the word of the Lord, the heavens were made, their starry host by the breath of his mouth.
Amen.
It's an idea that's the foundation of many faith traditions, even including going back to Native Americans, for example, who spoke about the Great Spirit. It's this idea that the universe is not accidental, it's not random. There's a creative intelligence that's pervasive throughout the universe, connects everything to everything else. There's direction, there's purpose, and if that's true, our lives have purpose. So based on where you are now, what do you think about the faith connection to this idea?
I think our churches are terribly suffering with overweight conditions. There's a lot of obesity in our churches. By taking a positive message, one of hope, to people that there is a way that they can now honor the temple by just simply changing their eating habits and picking up a different type of exercise program, I think we can dramatically make a difference and change the world one life at a time.
Well, welcome to Wednesday Night Bible Study. We're doing this one virtually, but we're so glad you're able to join us.
I know because of our faith, we are in a spotlight. We've had a lot of people tell us that we shouldn't mix our faith with our business. It's because of our faith that we have our business.
Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God, the Almighty. So if you got your Bibles, let's open them up, turn to chapter 4, and we're going to start to take a look.
The book of Revelation is a vision. This is a vision that I see here. And if you take a vision and you write it down, make it plain, and then you seek God's will, God has blessed him.
How are you? Good, how are you?
Very blessed, thanks for asking.
Doing okay? Good. Do you follow a specific diet?
I'm plant-based, whole food.
Me too. Well, let's do this. Very beautiful heart rhythm.
All right, so let's check your lab work here. Your total cholesterol was 101, and that's down from over 200 at one point in time.
That's correct.
I mean, you've cut your total cholesterol in half, essentially, which is amazing. And that's not all medication. You cannot do that with just medicine. Obviously, lifestyle change has a huge role in that. Obviously, being on a plant-based diet, your lifestyle has been the key.
Many people will come to a plant-based diet because of a health issue, but they stay for many reasons afterwards, for whether it be animals, the environment, or it could be a spiritual reason.
Our body is our temple, and we are supposed to be treating our body well. When we put the wrong kinds of food into our body, it is destroying it. I feel like it's a contribution to the environment because raising meat is one of our biggest polluters of our air and our water.
I've met several people that have made this same transition, and I hear it time and time again. I have way more energy. I've got more strength. I've got more stamina. All we have to do is look around today, and there's several professional athletes from football, tennis, basketball, now eat a plant-based diet and now perform at levels they couldn't perform at before they were eating plant-based.
From 320 pounds, the doctor said that's too bad how much on your heart. So I'm from 320 pounds down to 274. I want to make it to 260 for Christmas. I don't know whether I can do it or not, but this is a good help. As I got older, I changed from regular protein to plant-based protein. Now, I don't get the same amount of protein that I normally get from the other stuff, but it's clean, and that makes me lean, and I like that. And look at this. It can't help but be healthy for it. Look how beautiful it is. And see, and the brighter the color, the better it is for the body. And this old man still look good at 67 years old because I eat like this.
I went from being a carnivore to stopping it altogether. I was 204 pounds in January. In 3 months' time, my weight has dropped 22 pounds. I'm off blood pressure medication now. My cholesterol is down to 117. Everything is dropped. And I'm going to continue this because when I see my doctor again in December, I'm going to be down to 165 pounds and hopefully eliminating the rest of the medications. I'm just noticing an amazing difference in my body since I've gone plant-based. There's a stereotype of plant-based or vegan eating that, you know, we're like some kind of radicals or something. Now that I'm actually eating that way, my thought is, well, you know what? I think you need to try it because it's a great way to eat, very delicious, and it pays off. The health benefits are amazing. We resurrected a motocross track and actually we're having a ball. It's so much fun to be doing something I did when I was younger and still doing it at 60, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon.
How do you feel now? Do you feel better? You have more energy?
Oh yeah, I'm doing laps that I never thought I'd be able to do at this age. You know, maybe 30 years ago, yes, but at 60, no. I never thought I'd be doing it, and I'm doing it, and I'm gonna continue to do it. I'm gonna enjoy life and have fun.
The one thing that I would say I pride myself on is that I'm 50-ish and I don't have high blood pressure. I don't have high cholesterol. I don't have type 2 diabetes. I don't have any chronic illnesses, and I'm on 0 medications. I know how I feel at my age. It's amazing. I have energy. I can run circles around 20-something-year-olds in my kitchens. I can put in 14-hour days as a chef in a kitchen, and I'm not affected.
Looking back on Lori's journey from 25 years ago, she was always healthy, but it changed when she finally realized she could see people in rehab where she was a chef. She could see how feeding them really good food could change their life, change their recovery. As a sister, oh my gosh, I am like so proud of her. She saved my life. Without Lori in my life, I probably wouldn't be alive right now. She's the kind of person that she would help anybody. And it's not about her. It's about the amount of people she can touch every day with her food and the education that she can provide along the way.
I'm in my mid-50s. Honestly, I'm feeling better than I did 10 years ago when I wasn't plant-based. It's not just in my mind, I feel it in my body too. So my goal is to try and slowly change the mindset that we as patients have on how we're eating and consider lifestyle changes by just maybe eating better, exercising a little bit more. You can avoid some of those chronic conditions and lead a healthier life with better quality of care.
Today I look back and I regret that I put a lot of emphasis on not only my appearance, but also the material things that I drove. I had to have the fastest car, I had to have the nicest Harley, I wore the best watches. There was all of these things that I thought were important that I look back now and reflect. None of those are important. It's really simple. We come into this world with this, and we walk out with this. All of the things in between is just stuff, and there's more important things in life than stuff.
When I think about the body being the temple of God, one of the ways is by not being a glutton and not eating foods that I know are not intended for my body. I know that if I eat right and I exercise, I have a better chance of living a longer, more active and healthy life.
So where do we go from here?
Only God knows.
Thank you for taking this time. What gasoline button do you press when you're at the pump? Is it the low-grade button, the premium button? Which one do you press when you go to the gas station?
Low.
I press the 87.
Cheapest.
Low grade.
Low octane.
Lower octane.
If money wasn't an option, what fuel would you choose then?
Probably the highest grade or most expensive.
Well, the most expensive one.
Probably the higher octane, yeah.
Because it's better for your car.
Makes it run longer and it'll keep the life of it better.
If your car would run better on a higher octane gas, have you ever thought about that when it comes to putting food in your body?
Whether money's an issue or not, I would go with a better quality food.
I've always ate very natural and organic since I was little, so I think it's very important.
You want to eat the better food so you can live longer and be healthy.
Well, I always get better food for my body, definitely. Down the road's where it counts.